Welcome to Human Performance Podcast number 4. I'm in person with the man, the myth, the legend, Greg Robbins, in anticipation of optimizing the big 3. This is the first in-person one, so it's going to be a little bit different, but I think we're going to roll with it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Right here in the Strength House itself.
Literally the hashtag Strength House. So we got a few questions with respects to the basics of powerlifting, and some really simple ones that we'll start off with involve like the deadlifts, because everyone loves the deadlift. It's where the big pull comes into play, and some really easy ones are simple question rather. What's the biggest difference between a sumo pull and conventional pull?
Well, I think the biggest difference is obviously your stance. So obviously, you know, in a sumo pull, you have your feet out wide and you're gripping your arms are in between your legs, and in a conventional pull, your arms are outside of your legs. So I mean, I think that's a defining characteristic.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest difference that people maybe don't see so much is the change in your leverages a little bit. So basically, I think basically you're always going to be in the best position to pull a deadlift when your shins are more vertical. That's when you optimize your leverages. And the sumo basically makes it possible for you to keep your shins vertical from start to finish. Whereas conventional that's not the case for everybody, depending on their height and their limb length and everything like that. So in a sumo, because you're out wide, you can keep the shins vertical and you can basically keep your torso so upright that in some lifters' case, the torso never even changes angle. It's basically almost erect from the beginning, and it's just a question of extending the knees and the hips, whereas no one's going to be able to get in that position conventional. They're going to have some lean to their torso, and there's going to be a lot more hip extension that needs to take place, a lot more knee extension too.
So the question that just came to mind is when you get into the aspect of leverages with different deadlift pullers, we will call them, how does that come into play with like what you feel like you're more naturally suited for? Like I myself, I feel like I have the hip mobility, so I naturally gravitate towards sumo. Yeah, obviously speaking for other people is going to be a little bit different because we work with a lot of athletes. So
yeah, well, I think it's hard to deny that sumo will always be the better leverage. You know, like if you're going to break it down to, you know, angles and just basically range of motion as well. If you understand sumo, if it fits your anatomy so that you're not going to hurt yourself, then it's probably, or not probably, it is the optimal leverages. But I think some people just don't understand the leverages in a sumo as well as conventional. So I remember reading something from Mike Toucher, who's obviously a great deadlifter, a great powerlifter, who is another guy who geeks out for sure when it comes to just all the different things like leverages and bar speeds and everything that you can calculate. He calculates and he pulls conventional, and simply because he said that he just doesn't understand the leverages sumo for him. You know, to him it just doesn't make as much sense. Like he feels better, he can produce more power than the conventional. So whereas you take another person like myself, for instance, I don't have I can't get the extra rotation at my hips based on my anatomy, so sumo has always given me trouble in the past. Whereas, you know, I understand the leverages. The one time I ever tried to pull as much as I could sumo, I pulled, you know, more than I ever had, but I also sidelined me from a couple deadlifting and squatting for like 3 or 4 months. So
yeah, no bueno. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. The optimal leverages are always sumo, but when you come down to it, you know, how tall you are and stuff like that, yeah, there's gonna be slight differences in how everyone does it.
Yeah,
based on how tall you are, how long your legs are, how long your torso, your arms.
Right. Okay.
Things change.
I can see that. Couple questions I personally wrote down involve like the differences between an athlete and powerlifter. So the audience that came last time, I attended last time, there's just many coaches and obviously lots of powerlifters. However, the people that the coaches work with are not going to all be powerlifters. They might even be, regular folk, regular people.
Yeah.
What is the biggest differences when you're exercise programming for an athlete versus a powerlifter in terms of just the big three, I guess you could say?
Well,
very loaded question again, for sure.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of ways you could go with that. But I think like the number one thing you have to remember as a coach is that if someone comes to you and says, I want to be a powerlifter, then they're telling you that their sport is squatting, benching, and deadlifting. So they're saying that no matter what you find in their assessment of how they move or what's going to jibe with their body best, it doesn't matter. They still have to do something that resembles a back squat to below parallel. They have to do a bench press where the bar touches their chest, and they have to do a deadlift in some form where they start behind the bar and they lift it off the ground to lockout. So
those are the basics, obviously.
Right. So you can't, you take an athlete and you do an assessment and you say, well, you know what, squatting is not going to jive with your body right now. They don't need to squat. You can find something else for them to do. You can't do that necessarily with someone who wants to do powerlifting. I mean,
that's their sport. So
that's their sport, right? I guess, you could say we're not going to squat right away until we fix X and Y. But sometimes that's not a possibility too. They might come to you and say, I want to help train for powerlifting meets in 20 weeks.
Yeah, that's like runners saying I want to run like tomorrow, and obviously running is going to be an issue. So
right. So I think one thing that coaches can take from the seminar that I do is basically say, understanding how to manipulate a squat, a bench press, and a deadlift to meet different kinds of people. Like not everyone's going to squat the same, not everyone's going to bench or deadlift the same. So if you understand the bottom line, that a bar needs to stay over your middle of your foot. The bottom line is, what depth is, how to bench press and how to deadlift, then you can figure out what's going to work for different people.
So keeping priorities is really the end goal. Like what are you trying to achieve, and then how can you best achieve that?
Yeah, pretty much. So I think things are way different for an athlete than a powerlifter, because an athlete's not powerlifting, they're playing a sport.
Naturally.
And the end goal for them is to perform better on the field. And there's not a single sport that would require you to be a good bench presser, squatter, or a deadlifter at your sport, no matter how you want to swing it and try to argue that it's not the case. It's not the case. Like, you could be a great athlete at any team sport and not ever squat, bench press, or deadlift.
Makes sense. Yeah. For the going off of the what people can get from the seminar, what are the different things that, say, a beginner can take versus like I guess you could say an intermediate lifter or even advanced lifter? Like, I'm sure you're going to touch on all three, but what are the different things that they can all kind of take away?
Well, I think the funny thing is that it's a great question, it's a fitting question, because one of the things I talked about last time, all I really talked about was basic stuff. And most people don't understand the basics, or, if they, maybe it's not so much that they don't understand it, most people don't apply the basics. I think some people left. What was funny to me is that I'm by no means one of the strongest people in the world at all. I chose to do this seminar because I think I look at it through a good lens, where like I've spent a lot of time doing the classic power lifts, and I spent a lot of time doing strength and conditioning, and so I'm blending a different lens to look at it through. But people came and they said, oh, I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. It was all basics, but it was good to hear them again. And I think it's important that, I would assume that no one shows up to a seminar given by anybody unless they're trying to achieve something that person has already achieved, or that they feel like that person is garnering results with other people that they wish they could, get for their clients as well. So if that's why you signed up for the seminar, which I would imagine you did, and the person chose to deliver you a seminar based on how to master the basics, and your takeaway is, oh, it was a lot of basics, but it was good to hear it again. I still feel like you leave missing the point. Like that, I purposely went over the basics because I'm trying to tell people, if you listen and you apply these basics, you will garner these results for yourself and for others.
Right.
And if you're not, this is what you're missing. So,
okay.
What I tell the beginner versus the advanced lifter, we could get into different. I'll tell them a lot of the same things. Basically, I think the advanced lifter is just someone who's been doing it longer, and the advanced lifter is probably someone who eventually does need to start thinking about things a little bit different. And that's mostly in terms of programming over anything.
Okay.
So
individual programming versus just the literal basics of what the lifts are and how to excel at those.
Yeah, I think the advanced lifter has to start learning that specificity becomes king for them, and that all they're going to be doing is squatting, bench pressing, and deadlifting. I'll backtrack a second. So
okay.
People will talk about the pyramid. You start real at the bottom. If you're a beginner, you start really broad, and then you peak to having to be very specific and very zeroed in on what you're doing as an advanced lifter.
Okay.
I think to me, another guy I like to read a lot is James Smith. He talks about it being a diamond instead of a pyramid. So if you're a very beginner, you probably actually just want to squat, bench, and deadlift, master the technique, get a lot of exposure to it. And then as you become intermediate is when you start to broaden out your spectrum a little bit. And then as you become a more advanced lifter, you have to become more specific again, because you're so, you're strong. The stimulus that you're creating is you don't have the means to be applying that to so many different things. You need to apply it just to the 3 lifts.
Makes sense.
So to me, you start as a beginner going over the first 3. You hone in your technique. It's very simple progressions work, just like linear periodization, just trying to add a little bit of weight to the bar all the time. Then things start to broaden out. You have to start using more variations to learn about how to hone in your technique.
You're saying so different variations, not to throw in a conjugate idea, but maybe obviously pause benching is part of the sport itself, or some type of pause work, some type of board work, some type of chains, etc., accommodating resistance, I guess you could say. Is that your?
Yeah, or even just exposure to more exercises within a program.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pauses. But you can say doing conventional and sumo, pulling from blocks, pulling from a deficit,
mm-hmm.
Squatting, wide stance, narrow stance, high bar, low bar.
Go on.
Benching, close grip, decline,
mm-hmm.
incline, flat, floor press, stuff like that. But as you get really strong, and you look at some of the the best powerlifters in the world right now, most of their training just revolves around squat, bench press, and deadlift, and their variations are probably just mostly things like using a pause or things that still keep them in close to their competition stances and competition approaches, just with changing the dynamics of the movement a little bit.
I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense. So you kind of touched on a couple different items of using the diamond, as you phrased it, or as James phrased it. Are you changing anything else in the seminar? Obviously, you can't give it all away in a small podcast here, but.
Well, I think a lot of the things that will be different this time around will just be learning from logistical things a lot too, like format, just as far as the order that I want to present things in.
Oh, yeah.
And how we organize the hands-on approach. I think a lot of the information was exactly what I wanted to present on. I'll go back and review it and look at what people said last time. And, I feel like my process is always evolving too. So
mm-hmm.
think about, what in the last 6 or 7 months I've learned or changed. And there's been a few things for sure. But not too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just go back and you know, you look at like a bunch of presentations that you created 7 months ago, and then you look at them again and you come back to them, I'm sure I'm going to like see things that I would want to do different. Yeah. So I have no doubt that it'll be like better, more fine-tuned this time around. Not that it, you know, it was, I thought, very successful last time. I think people learned a lot. We had a really good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll clean it up and streamline it even more and make it a better presentation for everybody.
I had to bounce for the hands-on part. Was it, what's the difference that you're going to do now? Is like, I mean, you're still going to do, obviously, go through the 3 lifts, but I don't know the things that you're changing. I don't know.
I think one thing I'd like to do this time around is I like to place an emphasis on using the supplementary lifts, or you know, close variations of the big 3 to teach people. And I think instead of just, it's too many people at once, and it's not even the way I would prefer to coach them anyway. So, so what I think I want to do this time is if I see someone, let's say, doing a low bar squat and falling forward a lot, or feeling uncomfortable in the hole, instead of just talking to them or using the low bar competition squat to get comfortable in the hole,
give them a tool.
Yeah, give them the tool right there on the spot and say, hey, we're gonna do some squats from the pins, or we're gonna do some 3-second pause squats at in the hole, and get them doing that. And because I'm sure I'm gonna find 2 other people that run through my squat station that have the same issue.
Thing,
instead of coaching just the squat that day, I think this time around I want it to come to fruition a little bit more, because that's something that I stress upon in the lectures is how and why I use supplementary lifts. Like supplementary lifts to me they improve your weaknesses by teaching you a feeling, by teaching you something about your technique. They don't literally strengthen you. Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, like they provide some type of some proprioceptive like awareness of where your weak spot is, and then
it's like that phrase. You probably already have the strength, you just lack the position to express it, right? If you want to think about it from like a movement standpoint, it's the same with lifting. You probably already have more strength, you just lack the position to express it because you understand it. So you fall forward in your squat. If you didn't fall forward, you would use different muscle. You're stronger, because you'd be in a better spot to leverage that weight. Weight out in front of you is always going to feel heavier than. And just think about how many people just lift with crappy technique already for so long. Like, if you're consistently forward in your squat and you've built up a considerable amount of strength with that leverage, if someone taught you how to leverage correctly, you're probably already stronger than that.
See, it's just interesting because like we could talk all day about different like leverages and different ways that we can apply different methods is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
There's methods out there, and it's just like it's interesting to me, I guess, it's because like it's not only like a hobby, but it's also like you've studied it, which is like not many people study powerlifting. Like they just do it. It's a little different, like a little different thought process. But anyway, that's just a random thought on my end. I think one thing that was really interesting is I was checking out your Instagram one day, and you like had some I don't even know how you did it, like a paint picture on there regarding the deadlift.
Yeah.
And I mean, you had like a massive block of text, but like it was talking about, again, leverages with respect to feet position versus the bar.
Right.
And like your feet are different, or actually the shin angle, I think it was the topic. And since I pull sumo, like I get as close as I can to the bar, just so all I have to do is pull back and sit back into the movement, versus conventional, I have no idea what I'm doing. So like, or not that I have no idea, but I have less of an idea than sumo. So I don't know if you could like describe it or go into detail with that.
Yeah, well, I think so. Conventional, I think, is where you see the most variation in how people go about.
You see like Magnuson doing his crazy like roll, and then he pulls it. Or, you get somebody like you and buddy Jamie just like crushing it. Otherwise, it just looks like a hip thrust while you're holding it. It just so many variations. So
and so I think that comes down to the fact that the conventional deadlift, I think leverages are for most people are never optimal. So you're trying to almost do like damage control. So the leverages are optimal for everyone once you get to that position, kind of where the shin is more vertical, your armpit is right over the bar. But for some people, like, they can't start in that position. So you hear about people with really long arms are good conventional deadlifters. Well, that's because they can keep their hips a bit higher. They can start with a more vertical shin and still keep some upper back extension and reach the bar. But for most of us, we can't do that. So what happens is we hear something like keep a vertical shin. So we do that. We start close to the bar. We keep a vertical shin. And we end up having to round our back right from the start to get ourselves down to the bar. And some people have made a case for it. It's not necessarily a bad case for like the round back deadlifter.
Yeah. I have no idea like what that would even entail. So
yeah, and I think that once people start pulling some considerable weight on conventional deadlift, everyone becomes a round back deadlifter.
it's heavy.
It's heavy and it's out in front of you way more so than a sumo. So your back
naturally
comes apart a little bit. So I've never found success with myself or anyone that I've personally worked with starting round backed and staying round backed through the lift.
Yeah, it's like once you start being round back, then you continually be more and more round.
Yeah,
it's not like you ever come up straight again until the lockout. Like,
right. Yeah, so I think about it in phases, and a lot of people have to have like a start phase, and the start phase will have a lot more angle to the shin, so that you can drop the hips a bit lower and keep the upper back a bit more extended while you grab the bar. So you can settle your weight back better. And then phase 2 is when that bar actually breaks the ground. And when it breaks the ground and it moves up about an inch and a half, it leaves some damage control. So at that point, you probably did your hips came up a little bit, you came a little bit forward, your back rounded a little bit, but essentially it would just put you in a spot where you're still right over the bar, your legs are still underneath you, and you can drive up.
Instead of tipping over.
Instead of if you started in that position, more vertical shin to begin with, and came forward from that, then you'd be out in front the entire time.
And all you do is fighting to pull back, and
yeah,
it's not exactly happening. Okay.
So you see a lot of guys that do that. Like I think Chad Wesley Smith is a good example. A lot of the guys that roll it are a good example. You get down, they roll it, and they give it that little like initial burst pull, and you see them almost like tip a little bit forward, and you see their knees shoved back.
I think I remember Teixeira doing that as well.
Yeah, and it comes straight up after that. So they're just gathering a lot of force and momentum with that phase 1 position where they can really drive with their quads. And that's going to get them through the rest of the lift.
When you say phase 1 and phase 2, you're not saying like you're going to be starting at phase 2 eventually. Like phase 1 is where you start, and then phase 2 happens as a progression.
Yeah, it's just where you should end up.
Yeah, like you're not going to change phase 2 into phase 1 eventually. Like you're always going to be phase 1, and then
it just
understand.
Yes, if you're more of an average build of a lifter, you know, like where your limbs are all somewhat pretty much equal.
It's like 6'6".
Yeah. Then you're gonna need to start like a good 1.5 inches off the bar, maybe more. You're gonna need to let those shins come forward towards the bar. Your knees will essentially be over the bar. Your armpit will essentially be right over your knee, and those things will be stacked up right over the bar. So the middle of your foot, the middle of your foot, your knee, and your armpit will make a straight line over the bar. And then that will give you the ability to drive and pull back on the bar rather than up. And then that will shoot you into a position where you clear your knees, and now the middle of your foot and your armpit are over the bar. And then essentially,
maybe that's why I don't do the conventional. There's a lot of moving parts there. Sumo is like, I just get into position, I pull back, and then I'm set. Like,
yeah, conventional is it's definitely worth looking at. I mean, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give someone is just figure out who are some successful lifters that are built like you're built, and go watch them lift.
Not a bad thought.
because that's where you'll learn a lot.
Should be watching ballerinas and whatnot. So, no, that's really good information, because that's something that, like, until I came here, I wouldn't be able to understand. So, like, it's just like relatively difficult to conceptualize without any visual feedback, for sure. With respect to, like, any other articles, any things that you read online, like, I know you have, you're starting a new series, I believe, on Eric's website.
Yeah.
Can you just dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. Basically, we did so many installments of the quick and easy ways to move and feel better.
Right,
I think
yeah.
the audience for that was just kind of more general, apply to lots of different people. And we did, I mean, it's still going. Like, you contributed, Eric's contributed. Right. So I'm sure it's not gone and forgotten, but there's like 60 installments at this point. So it was like a little, wasn't motivating me to do another installment.
So change it up, or
so I needed a little bit more structure. Like, okay, if I'm gonna sit down and do a weekly installment, then instead of just being so open-ended, let me zero the audience in a little bit, and then let me also zero the topics in a little bit. So I thought, let's go after just like the general gym enthusiast who is a little bit more concerned with benching more, squatting more, and deadlifting more, or overhead pressing, chin up, like the guys that are into the basics. And it's becoming more popular because powerlifting, I think, is garnering more attention, for sure. Yeah, with guys like Mark Bell and Chad Smith, heading up, Juggernaut, and it's getting out there way more, and so people are. I think it's awesome, because it's something that, like, anyone can just say, this is what I'm going to do. This has been my hobby too, because I already go to the gym, and now I can focus in. So
I think, like, the question I'm trying to ask here is, like, with respect to guys trying to get better at powerlifting or just getting bigger in general. Like, obviously, if you see powerlifters, they're relatively big. So, like, like, are there any other specific things? Like, okay, so Specialization Success Guide, if I'm correct. So that's obviously something you and Eric both co-authored, co-wrote, I guess you could say, and that's still very applicable. But the thing that comes to me is, like, when it comes down to a powerlifting meet, like, can you dive down to the basics of that and how it kind of, like, sets you up for, lack of a better phrase, success in the powerlifting realm?
How doing a meet does, or
how following that plan will help you. Just to rehash it, because we talked about it last time. Yeah. But there's obviously, like, I don't know how many templates or whatever phrase you want to use. There's different variations on each part of it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So are you saying, like, rehash training for powerlifting, how it actually helps you achieve a lot of different things at once, or?
No, well, it's gonna naturally get you bigger. We kind of all understand that. That's not really news to anyone.
Yeah.
The Specialization Success Guide, like, how somebody can use that specifically to get to where they want to go in terms of powerlifting.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, with that product, basically the audience that we're looking at was, I feel, someone who's beginner to intermediate, coming closer to becoming more of an advanced lifter.
Kind of like what you already said.
Yeah. So it focuses, obviously, there's 3 programs in there, one for the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. You do all 3 lifts in either program. There just happens to be more of a focus on bringing up one of those lifts if you choose that program to do. And that is a good introduction into how to use some of those supplementary lifts. So, like, if you choose the bench program, you're going to be doing a few different variations of the bench press. And it will also teach you a lot about how you start building up a huge base of volume and then consolidate things down to a narrow focus. So it's very much like a pyramid type program where, in phase 1 of that program, you're doing 4 days of training a week with a lot of volume at lower intensities. You're doing a bunch of different variations. And then you'll just see how you can consolidate that down to 3, in some programs, even 2 days of training a week, just to bring the volume down, bring the amount of exercises you're doing down. clear the focus to exactly what you want to do. In this case, set a personal record on the squat, the bench press, or the deadlift. I think the more beginner that you are, you'll follow the bench program and set PRs on your deadlift and your squat too.
Okay.
You know, even though that focus isn't there, I imagine you will. Yeah.
Right.
Just because you would have never had something so structured before. And it's also a look into percentage-based training if someone's never done anything like that too, which can be very useful as well. So just cutting a little bit off your max and doing a bunch of like sub-maximal training at given percentages.
So that's one thing you've done in the past in terms of like product-wise. But how has your own specific approach to training changed in the past X amount of months? And I think we'll leave this as the kind of a ending kind of question because one, it's interesting to me still, and I'm sure it'll be interesting to others too. So
yeah, so I was training obviously just for powerlifting, but I hadn't done a meet in a while. Basically, did a meet. Was going to do another one. Well, I think the thing that I always stress to people is that preparation coach first. Powerlifting is not number one on my priority list. So let's just say that responsibilities in coaching and start to take some precedent over lifting, and I don't ever want to do something if I'm not going to be able to give it 110. Sorry, 100%. We'll get rid of that phrase. 100% of of my effort. So I'll always still kind of train the same way though, like just run myself through meet cycles kind of, and then instead of setting a PR, just
get stronger.
just restart the meet cycle again. But if we rewind back to the summer, I realized, based on some other life things that were going on, I was gaining too much weight. And so I started cutting weight and I got lighter. It felt great. Started moving around more, doing more of my sprint work and movement stuff, and taking a focus on that. And, at first it was, okay, I want to get better at this stuff so that I can kind of lead from the front with our athletes in the off season and make sure I can demonstrate this stuff and build a program for them. And then, more recently, I'm a little of like a masochist, I guess, for myself. I like a physical challenge, and I just not much in lift, like with just straight lifting. Aside from even there's some high rep sets you do that you have some self confrontation, but I don't know. It's like a little bit different with lifting for me, at least. The self confrontation is not really there as much. Like I get pumped up about lifting. I like lifting heavy. I like putting a lot of weight on my back or trying to bench it or trying to pull it. A high rep set, like I get kind of lost in that moment. I don't really think about quitting and just do it or fail at doing it. And so I thought, well, actually, to be honest, so my girlfriend enjoys running and doesn't enjoy lifting, but does it. Like literally like goes through a mental struggle every time she knows she has to lift. But she shows up and she does it. And I was like, there's nothing in my life right now where like I go through a mental struggle and then be like show up and do it. Yeah, like like I gotta do this. And I was like, well, if I started running again, I could run with her once in a while. B, that would build some toughness back for sure, because running is something I never liked doing. But when I was in the National Guard, like I got myself pretty good at running. Like my goal was to run a back-to-back 6-minute miles and 2 mile. I ran pretty close, and got at least that 1 6-minute mile. And so then I've been reading some articles from Alex Vieda on Juggernaut. If you're not familiar with him, he owns Complete Human Performance, and he's basically a guy who tokened the phrase of being like a hybrid athlete, or you're strong, fast, and you have exceptional levels of endurance. or a lot of endurance qualities as
Right.
well. And so I was reading with him, and in one of his articles or something he posted up, he had the 666 challenge. So that was
It sounds kind of brutal.
yeah,
So at least
to say masochistic. So it was squat 600 pounds, deadlift 600 pounds, and run a 6-minute mile and do them consecutively, almost like a powerlifting meet, except
like
without the bench press.
in the same day.
Same, like boom,
Okay.
like, within an hour or whatever. I don't know if there's a time limit. I probably should go back and read the rules eventually. But to me,
20
it
minutes.
was just do those 3 things, like warm up, squat 600, warm up, deadlift 600, go outside, run a 6-minute mile.
Negative 16 degrees.
And so I thought to myself, well, I'll run a 6-minute mile in my life. I could deadlift 600, now if I need to. I've never squatted 600, but that's like in my mind, the biggest goal I have for myself strength-wise.
Period.
Yeah, period, is like squat 600 pounds. I've gotten close.
Still working.
Still working up at it. So I was like, well, that seems like be a pretty cool goal.
Yeah, that's pretty wild to me.
So I reached out to him, and I've been working with him. So yeah, my training right now is definitely like relit a fire for me. Not that I ever lost it. Like, I love training. So, but
Right.
I feel like I have a lot more responsibilities now with where we work and stuff like that. And so having someone else handle my programming has been awesome because I just don't have to think about it, and I just show up and I do it. And the running, every single time I have a moment of self-confrontation, like I want to stop, but I do it. And that's been big for me because that's something I believe in. Like, I believe in that part of training that some people lose sight of that. Like, training needs to be this brilliantly well thought out process where everything jives and it's wonderful and happy, and you skip into the gym and you skip out of the gym and it's beautiful, and it's like, no, you shouldn't be shouldn't be like putting yourself into some kind of early grave through training, but you should. One of the beautiful things about training is that self-confrontation and like having to get through it. That's where you learn lessons.
You seem to thrive on that.
Yeah, I like that part of training. It's like getting out of your comfort zone and
for sure.
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now. That 666 challenge, and it's going well. I think I'm approaching it, but it definitely feels good to be able to.
I want to be there when you.
But yeah, but I'll need it. I
don't know where you're gonna do it, but I'll be wherever that is.
I'll be at the gym. Yeah, CPA. We're already around the parking lot there.
Have you
twice
measured
as
it
long?
out?
Yeah.
You measured it?
Yeah. So I got the course. I'll set up.
I'm gonna ride my car around while you do.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fun.
Do you have a date for that, or do you just like whenever you feel like it? Or?
I'd like it to be as soon as possible.
I want to be done.
So squat is
Nice.
the one we're working up on.
Right.
It's probably like lowish 5, like lowish to mid 5s. The
So
run is getting closer to 6 already. I feel like I feel confident in like a 7-minute mile right now.
Right.
And the deadlift, I think, is already there. So we're getting closer, but
Right.
Keep training.
So I know that was the last question. It's kind of long question, but the last question I'll ask is how important are intangibles when it comes to powerlifting? I'm finding myself more like the heavier the weights that I'm lifting, the more I need to not respect like programming or like whatever periodization plans and whatever you want to call it, like variations and lifts. Like, it doesn't matter as long as like if you have no sleep, if you have not, your nutrition's all off, where do you place priority wise the intangibles, like stress wise?
I place the intangibles probably much higher than the programming.
Yeah.
Programming is just like one of the bottom things in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it totally comes down to like the number one intangible is probably right here. Like, you got to have the mental fortitude.
Right.
The mental fortitude, like what I'm talking about, to do some stuff that's not natural. Like,
well, from the last question, obviously, that comes through.
And it's like, if mental fortitude is something that some people have or don't have, But at least some people are intelligent enough to know where their shortcomings are and just put themselves in situations that foster what they're missing. You know what I mean?
I remember the first week I literally the first week I got hired here, we were doing like farmer walks, and I was like, like I think I said to you offhand, I was like, this is my deadlift max. Like we're walking with my deadlift max, and I like every other step, like I said, I can't do this. And then I took another 2 steps, and then I took another 2 steps, and then eventually I got to whatever amount of yards it was, and I was like, I can't believe I just did that, but I did. So
yeah, and 5 months later, deadlift max is like 50 pounds heavier than it was before. Or more.
I think it's 80.
80 pounds heavier. There you go. 80
80
pounds heavier than it was before. So, yeah, like, if we all go through phases too, like sometimes you just have more of it than you did before. Like there's phases where I'm just not the balls to the wall guy that I was 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like on those days that at least I'm smart enough to be like, all right, I can't train by myself. I need to
you need people.
go put myself
right
with someone stronger than me, with someone more insane than me. Like I got to go do that.
Yeah.
And so that they can get it back out of me. So that mindset is huge, whether you're a powerlifter or whether you're an athlete. Like we obviously, you and I see lots of different personalities in the athletes, and like if there's one thing that is just so obvious, it's a kid.
Yeah.
If the personality is not there, if they don't want it, they're just not going to get it.
They're timid about doing like kettlebell deadlifts or something like that.
Yeah. And it goes past like powerlifting for sure. I mean, one thing, we're in the baseball world and we talk to scouts and stuff like that, and like they are legitimately afraid of spending money on a kid that doesn't have the right personality, no matter how good they are.
It's true.
I can think of kids that I've met and worked with that they're timid about signing these people or giving them deals because they don't have the right mental personality or don't carry themselves the right way. Like,
it's true.
There really are important qualities because, like I said, you're trying to do something that's not natural. It's not ordinary. You're trying to do something extraordinary. It's going to take something a little bit more. So you either have it. If you have it, you have it. You know who you are. Like, you're a little tapped. If you don't, you need to surround yourself with those people. Yeah. Just let them bring it out of you for 2 hours, 4 times a week or whatever.
You got like a mental chip on your shoulder. You gotta like brush or whatever you want to phrase it as.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that intangible is number one, because that's the number one thing I see people hold people back.
So everybody at the optimizing the big 3 is going to be like borderline crazy at this.
No, but at the same token, like there's a specific reason why during the hands-on part, I get all the talking over with, and then we turn the music on and we do a training session. Right. Yeah. Music is up, full volume. I don't care if I have to talk loud to coach you. Like the environment is important. And that's why people, they learn good technique on that day, of course. So I'm not going to say that's not one of the reasons that they set some, records for themselves.
Right.
It's also, the environment.
Experience.
It's like when you train, if you train every day at CSP, and then you got to pull like a PR and we go, train at someone else's gym.
Commercial.
Say it's someone or someone you look up to.
Oh, okay.
You're going to crush it. Just how it is. Or we have a commercial gym, you'll still probably crush it because you just want to make everyone feel bad about themselves. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's funny you bring it up. The first week of my internship class in 2012, all the interns like we shut down on a Saturday, so like all the interns like we still want to lift. We went to Boost Fitness down the street, pulled a PR for 4:15 at the time. So, pretty funny.
No, I don't know what the science behind that is, but it's like
Taylor Swift's music.
Taylor Swift, yeah, or just like repping in a different environment.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I think that's just an animalistic quality we all have. Like,
it's true.
We're in a new place.
I think it's true.
Right, I'm gonna stick my chest out and show you what I'm capable of.
Right.
So that can be used as a training tool. Like I've used it before. Like I'm not feeling up for this training session. Do I go to the place I always go to train? Or what if I'm not feeling up for it? What if I go lift at someone else's gym?
You got to do something different.
I got to
right?
put up or shut up kind of thing. Like,
Makes
you know,
sense.
those mental things that people don't think about. But if you want to like take training to the next level, it's something worth thinking about. Like, do you put that kind of thought into your training or not? If you're having an off day, do you literally think about possibly training somewhere else just because you know you're gonna have a better lift, or are you just like, whatever, I'm gonna push the clock?
We should have like a subtitle underneath optimizing the big three. It'd be like optimizing the big three, and then I don't know.
The big four.
The big four. Yeah. Hey, that would be great. That's a good idea, actually. Not a bad idea.
Yeah. So that's the number one intangible, and then like the things you touched
Stress,
upon are obviously
sleep,
like hugely important too. Yeah, you got to eat. You have to sleep.
You got to eat a lot.
Yeah. You got to eat a lot.
Some people say yes. Some people say no. But I found success by eating more. Because for me, like, I don't know. This is just something that I've done personally. I'm sure other people have done also. I'm not the only one. Like, they always cut weight or they drop weight. And I've stagnated at that. And then like when I jumped up in weight, all my other lifts obviously went up in weight like as well. Like obviously there's something there. I don't know what, but
yeah, I mean mass moves mass is part of it, and
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, just you're recovering better. You're
makes sense.
You're not holding
any nutrients back or anything like that.
Right, like you know for sure you're covering all your bases.
I'm not stressing about if I had enough macros or whatever. So
right, I think you can dial it in if you want, but you definitely don't want to get into. You don't want to try to be boosting your maximum strength and also depleting yourself. And those two things obviously don't coincide.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Okay, but yeah, nutrition's huge. I think it's something I might touch a little bit more. We didn't do that at all on the last seminar. I might touch on some stuff cool. This time.
I'm taking notes.
It's not like my forte. I think it's something that I feel like I understand pretty solidly enough to
maybe as
achieve physiques that, you know, but it's something I don't do a lot because I have my own personal chip on my shoulder with coaching nutrition and stuff like that, where I think it's just exhausting because most people know what the right thing is. It's not a lack of information that's holding them back. Again, it's
big four guy.
Yeah, it's the four guy.
The fourth one.
Yeah, they're like eating their feelings and stuff like that. So
that's true. Eat my feelings every night.
Yeah. Well, that's the good thing about strength training. You know, you feel strong and then you eat your feelings, and then you keep getting stronger. And so
I'll be a big boy soon. So I guess I wanted on that note. We've already talked for I don't even know how long. Maybe holy crap, maybe an hour. Looks like it. Boom goes the dynamite. What we can do with this is I'll put a bunch of links up to the things that we talked about, and maybe even have a few of Greg's social media things with respect to the Strength House. I know he has an Instagram. I think it is the Strength House.
It is.
Perfect. And
and that nice and easy for you.
Yeah, and I think Twitter is Coach Greg Robbins, and I think that's really simplistic. And I don't even know if you're an active member that much
on the Twitter.
Yeah, the Twitterverse. You're just there.
I'm a Twitter observer for sure.
Okay.
So
Instagram, you're more.
Instagram, I use a lot more. Facebook, I use a lot.
Yeah.
Twitter moves way too fast for my slow mind. I don't know. Twitter, I don't understand it as much.
To each his own.
Yeah. So I like pictures, you know, it's easier to understand.
Okay, we'll go with that. Well, on that note, if anything, drop any comments and or questions, or even maybe email Greg. Yeah, and if you're local and you want to stop by for the seminar in March, I think we still have some slots left. Do you know the actual date?
It's March 8th. March 8th will be all day event. It's a Sunday, so we'll be there from 8 a.m. to. Last time we were there from like 8 a.m. till 5:30. Perfect. We crushed some food afterwards as a group, and so I hope to see some people there.
March 8th. Got it. Okay. All right.
March 8th.
I think I'll be there.
He's gonna be there.
All right.
I'm gonna guilt trip him into helping coach.
All right. On that note, thank you all.
All right.